We'll be fine now says play for the love of the game. Promise, how do you pay for the bills with that? I was speaking to Aryan about it. A good friend. And why I don't regret not playing the FIDE Grand Swiss this year. So it just finished. If you don't know, FIDE won. Hikaru finished like second.
Let me cam up here. There we go.
Super strong event. Has spots for the candidates. And I've played this tournament once before and haven't been interested in playing since.
By the way, fun fact, when Eric says he played this tournament once before and he hasn't been interested in playing since then, it's pretty funny because I'll tell you guys a little story from back then, because everybody likes to make out there's massive drama, everybody hates each other, all this other stuff. But when Eric did play, I believe in 2017 or 18, whatever the year was, at the end of the event there was an after party. There was an after party that was held at the Chess Bras Airbnb that they had in the Isle of Man. I remember it very well because Magnus was there, I was there, Fabiano I think was there hitting on Zhu and June, and there were some of the Norwegians like Ari and Tari and others. So when everybody has all this drama or all this other stuff, it's just not reality. So let's keep going.
It is very depressing to play professional chess. So first of all, it's let's talk about it. There were how many players?
Okay, 114 players.
The vast majority of them were over 2,600. Even then, a lot of them were top 100, over 2,650.
Exactly. Yep.
Etc.
Thank you so much to Balthier GR for the host with 26 viewers. Thank you so much to Balthier GR.
And it's 11 rounds of classical chess held in Isle of Man, and it's one of the best ways to become poor by playing in one of the nicest events on the chess calendar. Because first of all, you got to get to Isle of Man. So the question is,
I love this. I love what Eric is saying. He's like, yeah, playing this nice professional tournament is one of the easiest ways to be poor, and that is true.
Let's look at the basic numbers from the regulations and why I got pretty depressed when I played here.
This video will make you sleep. Okay, I'll put it on 1.5 speed. Let me put it on 1.5 speed.
46 prizes, 114 players. You finish in the top 46. $2,000 is
yes,
46
correct.
$2,000.
Correct. So basically in the field there are 114 players. The top half get paid $2,000. Now I assume Eric, since he's showing the regulations, it'll show what the money is as well, but let's keep going.
Does a player have? Well, if we go to the regulations, this is one of the nicest events. This and the World Cup are the two events with like a high prize fund for the average strong grandmaster. You know, the candidates is just a few players. One
other thing that Eric, I don't know if he's going to say this later or not, but the other important thing to note about this video, when Eric is talking about nice tournaments, it's also one of the very few tournaments where players get money to they get like a travel allowance. Most tournaments you don't even have this. So like for example, if you were a 2500 GM who played in the Doha Masters in Qatar, I don't believe there are any conditions, which is why one of the people who's done commentary on my channel, Alexander Ostrovsky, he went and played there. I think he had to pay for his airfare, and the way that he saved money was by sharing a room with Hans's buddy, Josiah Sternman. So basically, if you're like a 2500 GM, like in a normal open tournament, you get nothing covered. You're paying it all out of your pocket. Even 2600, maybe you get half room or full room, but that's it generally.
For private events, round robins. So it says right here, travel and accommodation, because people always ask, do you get paid to go to tournaments? You get expenses? Well, this is considered one of the nicest events possible. So each registered player receives accommodation and meals allowance of 150 US for each night spent on Isle of Man, up to a maximum of 14 nights.
And to be clear, for people who are watching this video, this is as good as it gets. Eric is not wrong. This is as good as it gets. Like, you do not normally get these conditions at other tournaments. So when he's saying like 150 per night, that is as good as it gets. Can I add subtitles? Sure, I can add subtitles.
Travel allowance, and that depends on which country you play for. If you play for Chess Federation in Europe, you get $950 to get to Isle of Man, right? You play for anywhere outside of Europe, 1,600 US. Now, just break it down.
First of all, most of the players who play in this tournament are from Europe, so they get $950. So essentially what they get is, let me open a calculator. They get $950 plus 150 times 14. I think Eric already said that, but you get 150 times 14. So that means you get 950 plus 2100. So you're getting $3,050 is the amount of money that you get. $3,050 all in. Now I'm going to assume that getting to Isle of Man from Europe is not easy if you're not from the UK. So probably it's about $500, which essentially means, and that's before, that also, by the way, is before you pay for your hotel. So hotel is generally going to be about 100 a night. So 100 times 14, that's 1400 plus 500, which is about 1900. So essentially you are going to make about $1,100 if you're traveling from Europe and you're going to the Isle of Man to play in the tournament. So you're making $1,100. Now think about how many tournaments there are throughout the year, and this is as good as it gets. So if you play other open tournaments or whatever you can, you are not getting any of these conditions whatsoever. And so essentially you're gonna be, this is like as good as it gets with perfect conditions for like a 2550 2600 GM, and you're gonna make $1,000. That's the bottom line. And you still have to eat food. Yeah, I guess, yeah. So if you eat food, let's say 50 times 14, just $50, that's $700. Oh my gosh, wait, 7 plus 500 plus 1400. Okay, so when all is said and done, you are going to make about $450 if you don't finish in the top 46. Amazing, as they would say. You're gonna make $450 over 2 weeks, and this is a tournament that has a lot of strong players. Like, there are a lot of very good players who did not make the top 46, and they're making $450, and there aren't even that many of these opens throughout the year. So it's not a joke at all. Not a joke. What the flip exactly? So like, I don't know. Actually, did Gook? Let me pull up chess results. Let me see chess dash results. Let's see. And this is from what's it? Chess results Isle of Man. Let me see. What was chess results Grand Swiss? Let me see. Why are chess players not paid? I'll get to that. Here we go. Let's pull this up too. Okay, here are the standings, right? Wait, what? Why is it not showing? Show tournament details. Okay, let's look at the ranking list after round number 11. I'll change the scene, of course, to another one. Maybe this is better. No, that's wrong. It's better. Nope. I should have this on. Let me find one of my other scenes. Does this work? Yeah, maybe this works. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Okay, so what do we have? You have number 46. Who finished after 46? You have like Pichot, you've got Volokit, Matlikov, Bluebaum. Bluebaum, for example, is a good example because Bluebaum is from Germany. And so Bluebaum, who finished number 50, he made $0. So Bluebaum normally, if he has a good title Tuesday or in the two events, will make more money than spending 2 weeks in the Isle of Man. Just as an example, he will make more money than he did from the Isle of Man, where he finished in 50th place. And there's so many players also who finished below the top 50, like Hari Krishna 2716, David Navarre 2689. You've got like Tari, you've got Jordan Van Forest 2700 player, Niels Grandiles, Marta Rosian another 2700, D Gukesh as well, though that is India, so it might be different. But I think you guys get the point. So let's get back to it. And where were we? Was it this one? No, wrong scene. Why can't I remember which one I set it up on? It was this one. Which one? It was not this one. There we go. Okay, so let's get back to the video. Okay, so where were we? Here we are. Let's keep going. So yeah, it's very hard. Food is not provided at these. Just to be clear, you guys, nothing is provided. Hotel is not provided. Airfare is not provided. So hotel, airfare, and food are not provided. They just give you money and you're supposed to take care of it yourself. Now, I don't know, some federations might help players, but generally speaking, if you look at 2600 level players, they are not making money. That's just the reality. Chairs and chessboards are provided. This is true. Yes. Chairs and boards and clocks are provided.
Yeah, and it's 2023, so flying is a lot more expensive than it used to be. There's some inflation, there's other shortages, whatever. But let's just say the travel allowance covers $950 will get you there from Europe. And $1,600 US will cover your flight to Isle of Man from many places outside of Europe. Can't speak for everywhere. I can't speak for Australia.
Actually, let me take a look. How much? Actually, I mean, I didn't go from the US, to be fair. Even, you know, I did like transit, but I am from the US, and I think tickets from the US were pretty expensive because the problem with getting to the Isle of Man is that generally you have to go through like London, and generally it's not even clear whether you go through Heathrow or you go through Gatwick. So $1,600 is probably pretty close to how much it's going to cost you. Won't you actually be losing money playing these tournaments? On average, yes. And this is as good as it gets. That's the problem with the situation. This is as good as it gets. $1,100 from Dallas, yeah.
or I don't know about South America, but let's say it approximately does cover your costs. Your costs are covered. If you live in like a federation in Europe that's really far away, I don't know, but let's just say they definitely that should cover it. That's nice. Hotel plus 3 meals a day for 150 US. That should cover it. Isle of Man is not the busiest place. It's not the cheapest because it's a bit of a
tax haven.
Like the cheapest place, but it's not particularly expensive from being there.
Isle of Man, by the way, is somewhat expensive because, as most people probably know or don't know, the Isle of Man, of course, is a tax haven. I believe there's no income tax for corporations, if I'm not mistaken. So it is not necessarily super cheap either, on the other hand. And of course, even though the pound is deep in the toilet thanks to the great government of the UK, it still is expensive.
150 a night should cover your hotel room and your meals. It should approximately cover that. So that's fine. Let's just say that's a wash. That's flight, food, board covered for the players, and again, these are almost all super strong players.
Yes.
Now, that's not really what matters. I mean, that's good. That's a baseline. But then let's talk about how, if you're a professional, you need to actually make money, right? You need currency. So the tournament is 11 games of chess. The schedule, 11 games of chess. And a free day.
Yes.
So 12 playing days. And you have to arrive a day before, leave the day after.
I put it on 1.5 speed, 1.5 speed.
If you're flying from farther away, you might add on an additional travel day. So it could be 15 to 16 days at the most, 14 days at the minimum.
Yep.
You want to arrive early for jet lag reasons, etc. Yeah, you're looking at 16, maybe 16 days. I mean,
to be fair, yeah, like I see someone in chat says Eric can actually create content out of the tournament. He could play the tournament, but the problem is that it's just such a grind, and it's like, why do you want to go there and have to like prepare really hard and still probably struggle? Because like, these are not weak players. These are like 2650 players. Like, it's no joke. I mean, you saw it with like players like Levon Aronian, for example, where like he lost a game and then he played another 2650. So like, you get no break in this tournament. At least in regular opens, normally if you lose a game, you play against somebody who might be like 2500. You get a quote-unquote easier pairing.
Further than that, it's good for you, but you're paying your own dime per the regulations. So 14 days, full days budgeted for just playing. Let's just say that's it, So that's 2 weeks. And then you take a look at the process. So when you play these tournaments, usually you play your games of chess. The games go up to 7 hours a day. In this time control, I had a 7-hour game. I think there's a game that even went longer. Probably the average game is like 3-4 hours. But it goes up to 7 hours. Games are at about 2:30. So you wake up, you prepare, pairings are out. You prepare 3-4 hours on average. And you get ready for the game. And you play a 4 or 5 hour game.
Yes.
And then that's already 8-9 p.m. You go for dinner. And that's a full day. From morning until night. Chess preparation, going to the venue, chess playing. Then maybe you relax a little bit or check your game, sleep, prepare, rinse and repeat. And you're playing top players every game. So full chess immersion. I can tell you on Isle of Man, there's no like partying or big group fun. Very serious event. Okay, so you have while you're there, fully occupied. And then before the tournament, players are usually studying and training chess. So you budget like, you're probably spending a week or two for the event at home training chess.
True. This is a react. I'm reacting to this.
That's what I call it, opportunity cost. And then you play this tournament. And for the vast majority of professional players here,
he's going to show it,
they're going to come home with nothing.
Yep.
Even if they play well. I go to final rankings after 11 rounds. Go to number 46. That's 6 out of 11. So everyone after 46. 2/3 of the field. You don't make any money, and you've probably spent about 3 weeks of your life. And you've been stressful. You're playing full days of chess. That's it. There's top 50 players that get nothing.
Yep.
So
very true.
It doesn't really matter, but you're like working hard for 3 weeks, and you get nothing. We'll be fine now. Says play for the love of the game. Problem is, how do you pay for the bills with that? I was speaking to Aryan about it.
I love what Eric says there. It's like just play for the love of the game, play for the love of the game. But yeah, how do you pay the bills is obviously a very serious question. Like, I mean, it's legitimately a serious question. Like it's nice you said play for the love of the game, but yeah, that doesn't pay the bills, obviously.
Friend Aryan Tari Nori's number 2, and it's like, for me, it's hard to justify being one of the best in the world. And you don't have government support. How can you actually sustain yourself if you literally make $0 for 3 weeks of work?
Yes, true.
That's not very common in most things.
He's right.
And the prizes are not that high that it's like, oh, let's say I finished 31st to 46. You get $2,000. Even $2,000 for one of the nicest events in chess, and one of your best tournaments. That's not well paid.
Yeah.
Sir Mike says, don't chess federations pay you to play? No, very few chess federations pay you to play.
By the way, I've got to pause the video here too. You know, one funny thing, and I could talk about the Mishra situation as well, to be clear, but it's very funny because actually, as I think most people know, my wife is from Iran originally, and it's pretty funny because in a lot of these places, like in Europe or Iran, or these places like in Asia even, there is actually some support for the players. The players do get some support. It was very funny because, like, I remember the first time that I told my wife that I get like no support from the US Federation, and she was very confused because she was like, wait, like you surely the US Chess Federation, there must be, I mean, all the top GMs, like 2700 plus, they must be getting some support, right? Like she basically said this. I remember the first time that I was talking to her about it, and she was like very confused when I told her that no, like there's no support, like Chess Federation doesn't give you any money, you're on your own, you got to make it yourself. Whereas like in a lot of Asian countries, also some European countries like Italy specifically, because I know this directly, that there is support from the Chess Federation or like an Olympic committee or Olympic Federation. But like where Eric is from, which is obviously Canada, or where I'm from, which is the US, there is $0. We get $0, which is why in the US it's so important that that Rex Sinkfield has supported chess, because like up until like 2010 2011ish, there was no support. I was a solid 2700 plus players, and I got nothing. I got nothing. I had one sponsor, Red Bull, which paid me some money, something decent, but basically like that was it. I had nothing. So that's why, like, you know, as a slight segue, it's so critical what Rex does for chess in the US. So critical. Let's keep going.
This is an individual event, not a team event, so you're not playing for your country. Yalta says, temporary loss, but in the long term, you've gained a lot of experience and now you can have a stronger comeback. I'm not talking about kids playing. I'm talking about professional players that have been GMs for 10 years. So it's not, you're there, your experiences just doesn't pay for, like, these are experienced players.
Again, this is actually really funny to watch. This sounds like, this comment sounds exactly like the other one about play chess. You just play for the love of the game. It's like, yeah, just play, you'll get some experience. Like, again, experience doesn't mean anything because it's not going to pay the bills. As a kid, it's different.
So sometimes you're going to do well, sometimes you're not. Even if you do well, right?
Yeah,
we
true.
can just click on some of the events. Number 52. 2683 performance, Azerbaijan. Gained a lot
14 points.
You don't get anything. So just compare that to, you could teach chess, you could work at McDonald's, you could be low energy like me and stream, you could quit chess. But the numbers just don't add up. And this is one of the nicest events in chess.
He's right.
I'm not saying they should be paying higher prizes, because there needs to be a return on investment for organizers unless the public is funding it. But there's not even a minimum prize. And it really is one of the hardest events, one of the strongest opens in the history of chess. It's very hard for me. It just doesn't, like, well, spending 3 weeks of my life, if you're a really good player, if you're like a Fabiano, a top GM, Hikaru, you have a decent chance of making the candidates, you have a decent chance of the 60 or 80K, you know, top prizes, and you already make good money in other events that have guaranteed prizes.
Now, this is where like, I'm actually going to do a slight segue before we continue with the video. This is where I'm going to pull up a tweet, and I'm going to pull up this tweet very clearly because I think a fair amount of people have seen this. But there's this tweet about Hikaru hasn't lost a classical game this year, and this tweet is not actually the reason I bring it up is not about me, but it's very specifically, when we go down this list, you're gonna see a couple of people here. Actually, on each doesn't matter so much because he has like 15 wins. But when you look at Wesley So here, he has won 7 games, drawn 56 games, and lost 2 games in the 2023 year. Now, the reason that I bring this up, or why I segue into this very briefly, and why it's so important, and why I think chess is somewhat broken, is because for someone like Wesley So, the overarching goal for players who make the Grand Chess Tour is not to lose rating points, as opposed to trying to win and increase your rating. All that matters is that you get the invitations to the Grand Chess Tour so that you can guarantee yourself some amount of income every single year, which is also why I think with the Grand Chess Tour, so many games do end in draws, because the only thing that matters is getting in that event. That's the only thing, so that you can actually keep paying the bills over and over again. And that's why I think it's a big problem with chess, is because the incentives aren't there. The only incentive is to get the invitations. So otherwise, you're playing these open tournaments where you don't get any money at all. So isn't Rex giving like 200K? Wesley does not live in St. Louis. and I don't believe he's getting 200k. I'm pretty sure he's not actually, but that's not really the point of what I'm saying though. The point of what I'm saying is that the goal ultimately is to stay in the top 10 or top 15, as opposed to trying to get to like top 5 and taking big risks where you could fall down to number 30 and then you get no invitations at all. And that's the biggest problem with chess, honestly, is that there's only money a certain amount of tournaments, and you have to make sure you always qualify in those tournaments. It's the only thing that matters at the end of the day. It doesn't matter who it is, and that's also why I think like my performances were so bad too, I would say, like in 2018, 2019, because it was more about like try to finish in the top half, but desperately try not to lose a lot of rating points. Really important, so that you always qualify. Really important. Like I can just tell you like directly, like I mean, I can open my Excel spreadsheets, but like if I open my Excel spreadsheets, of course I'm not sharing my window, but like if I just go back, let me go back. Let me look at the let me look at how much I made in the Grand Chess Tour. Okay, let me do some math. I hopefully I'm not showing this on screen. Good. I'm not showing my calculator. I just opened a spreadsheet, so let me see. That's let me do the numbers. 0.81 divided by let me see, 0.2. Yeah, so actually I can just tell you guys, so like in 2018, let me just close this. In 2018, I'll tell you guys, in 2018, the amount of my money percentage wise that came from Grand Chess Tour events was 38%. So 38% of my income came solely from the Grand Chess Tour. Now mind you, like that's actually kind of low, to be honest. That's kind of low because like I had some sponsors, other stuff going on, but that's still 38%. So if you think about me not qualifying for the Grand Chess Tour, I would have made 38% less money next year, which is why you have to qualify for the Grand Chess Tour every year, which is why players like Wesley are happy to draw and just stay in that range where they automatically qualify and they keep making it in. So it's not a joke, and I think that's one of the big problems, that there's only money in a handful of events. So the players, it's more important to stay in that rating range, stay in that group of top 10 to 15 players instead of taking big risks and trying to win. What about 2023? I didn't play in the Grand Chess Tour in 2023 because I'm retired. So yeah, there you go. So it's quite different, but the point still stands. Like if you think about like Wesley's obviously glaring example, but it's more about making sure you qualify for the Grand Chess Tour rather than trying to win events. You just got to qualify so that next year you have that same income. You got to keep that income flowing, because otherwise you end up playing the opens like Eric says and you're just completely broke. So let's get back to the video, and here we go.
Blah blah blah. So but for the average like 2650 to 2700, which is top 50, top 40, it's like
no, wait a second. Those of you guys who are asking, it's qualification by rating. It's qualification by rating, which is why the rating is so important, why players do not take risks in the Grand Chess Tour, because you just got to guarantee that you qualify for the Grand Chess Tour the next year so that you can continue to pay the bills.
If you multiply this and add it throughout the year, it doesn't look very good, and this is one of the nicest opens
He's right
out there. So it's like for me, I just find it very hard for it to make sense to be a professional player. You're playing for experience, playing for fun, whatever, by all means. But it's not even like a poker prize fund or something where the $2,000 entry, it's like, no, this is like, the prizes don't scale up that hard, and it's all really good players. And chess, you know, pretty accurate when it comes to results in terms of the ELO rating. It's not like this is offset by a lot of good tournaments.
Exactly.
You know, where GMs come in and they make 10, 20, 30K.
Yeah, you don't.
Paul JB says, right, but if you win one tournament, you get over $1 million. What tournament?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Did I really just hear that?
Good tournaments. You know, where GMs come in and they make 10, 20, 30K.
Right.
Paul JB says, right, but if you win one tournament, you get over $1 million. What tournament in chess can you win $1 million in?
The World Championship.
What are people talking about? Some of the stuff I'm reading here is so far off. Somebody else was asking some other things too.
Oh my god, this is hilarious.
Golf. Exactly. Like golf is well funded, and they have some viewership. Oh, okay. I'm saying, what tournament can you even win 200,000 in?
Right.
So.
Right. I mean, other than the candidates and the World Championship, those are literally the only events that you can make that much money. Now, to be fair, there is a $200,000 grand prize in the upcoming Chess Champions Tour being held in Toronto in about 3 weeks. But nonetheless, yeah, like also golf is a very poor example, because even if you can't make it as a pro player with your PGA card, you still can go teach at the country club and make 300k a year easily. You can make 300k if you're like the club pro. And it's very, very nice.
It's the whole thing is very hard, but for me, you know, there's a certain age, you're a young grandmaster, you should play, you're trying to get better. The vast majority of players here that didn't make money, they've been GMs for a while, in their 20s and 30s, they're in their prime years for earning money. Yeah, and most of them don't have a chance of winning top 5 or top 10. You're here because you simply don't have other opportunities.
Exactly.
If you don't play Isle of Man and you just sit at home as a grandmaster and you want to be a professional player, like just playing, it's not like, oh, I'm going to go raid a tournament and win the $2,000 first prize against 2,000 rated players. It's not just sitting around. So I think it's only gotten worse in chess because there's only more and more grandmasters, and then you have to look at cost of living of where you're from, because you can justify dollar amounts based on cost of living. But like, I'm talking about strong grandmasters in this field. I'm talking about very hard work. It's not a fun event. Like, look at Shanklin. Like, this is a good example. Like, you see Sam Shanklin here, number 61. This is a good example. Like, very, very hard worker, like an extremely hard worker. I mean, there are few people I know who work as hard as he does on chess. And still finishes 61st. He makes $0. I mean, these are not just like 2,500 GMs. These are like people who are really, really strong, top 50 in the world, who like work on chess nonstop. Every year, every 2 years. And Canada doesn't get paid. Even countries like Norway, they don't get paid at all. So you're going for the love of your country, and you're also spending 3 weeks of your life just playing chess. And even then, lots of players don't play because it's hard for them to justify it. Yeah, true. But Isle of Man is a really good example of how hard it is to play and how hard it is to justify. Losing 2-3 weeks of your life, playing good chess, not having a bad result, and your take-home pay is $0. It is worse than anything you could do. And the upside is like, oh, you perform at a top 50 in the world level and you get $2,000. $2,000 for 2-3 weeks in a volatile industry where you don't have that every month. You don't have that tournament every month. Right. We can even extrapolate that. If you play at that level every month, okay, fine. Make 40k a year, 35k a year. Yep. Maintaining that level. If you drop it, right, that's it. Yeah, and he's right there, because he says like that's if you maintain the level that you make that money. If you don't maintain that level, it can go down. There is one thing though that I think Eric is missing here, which is the one thing that I think Eric is missing, and this is because Eric actually I don't think ever really played in the leagues, is that the way that most GMs who are like 2,550 to like 2,600 actually make money is by playing in what we call the league. So for example, there's the German Bundesliga, there's like the Czech Extra League. I think there's also the French Team Championship. There's also the Spanish. There's like the I think there's a Spanish Team Championship. There are these league events like Germany, Spain, France. I think Turkey also has one, if I'm not mistaken. So there are these league tournaments where people will play say like over the course of the year, it's about like, let's just say 10 games to keep it as an even number. They play 10 games, and a 2,550 will probably make on average about like $500. So if you extrapolate that by like what is that? That's I said 4 leagues. So let's just say you play 10 games in 4 different leagues. That's still only $20,000. So if you're getting paid $500 a game, and you play 10 games in say like the French league, the German league, the Spanish league, like the Turkish league. So that's like 4 different leagues, but that is actually how a lot of like the 2,550 players ish, 2,600 ish do make a living within Europe. It's just by playing in these league events in like Spain, Germany, France, Turkey, etc. I do believe like I have played in some of the leagues. What I do know is that the hotel is always covered, so your hotel is always covered. Usually for the Europeans, it's fine because traveling within Europe is very cheap. Eric, of course, is unlucky, just like I am, which is that, as everybody in chat knows, if you're within Europe and you travel to somewhere like 5 hours away within Europe or 6 hours away, it's still relatively cheap. Whereas anytime you have to cross the pond from Canada or from the US to go to Europe, it's like price is always like 3x what it is traveling within Europe, even if the distance might be the same on an airplane. It's always cheaper traveling within Europe than it is like going from like the US to Germany or London or wherever, or Canada to, or I mean Toronto or Montreal to the same place. So that is important to note though, is that I think he, like, I don't know if he talks about it, but he is, I think, missing that point. And you can take trains in Europe. True. Limited years holding that title in the first place. So it's hard for me. It's hard for me to justify and to look at. And when I talk to some players, they're like, I mean, they don't know what else to do. They spend so much of the year so much of their life getting good at chess. That's all they know. But like, well, that's the other problem too that Eric raises here, which has to be mentioned, is that like the problem with chess, honestly, is that
in order to get like they're probably as a kid you can do it up to like 14 15 16 ish, I would say. But the problem is if you're like a GM and you're like 25 50 at 16, for example, which is pretty good. I mean, it's not like super wonderkind or whatever, but it's still very, very good. You have to make a decision there where it's like you just drop chess altogether and focus on school, or you basically go all in on chess and you spend like 3-4 years on it, and by that point it's already too late generally to go back to school and like completely switch because you spent all your time on chess. So that's actually the other thing that's really, really tough, is that there's a point at like 15 16 where you have to make that decision, and if you go all in on chess and you get stuck in the 2600 range, generally it's too late to go back and like and change. You can't just go and easily change curve. People can do it obviously, but it's very, very difficult.
It's actually pretty sad. This isn't that dissimilar to other sports though. No, it's the difference with chess and other sports. There's different tiers of sports. The sports have monetized better than chess. Chess still hasn't monetized over the board events, where the top players provide exciting games, tournaments are able to increase the prize fund, and everything rises. There's some Olympic sports where this is similar to, for sure. And I'm not saying the prizes should go up because money doesn't grow on trees. But for me, as a logical numbers person, when I was like 22 years old, which is when I quit chess, I only played 2 years full time. I'm like, it's only getting harder, and I don't even see the upside. Like, it's a very stressful life.
Yes, it is.
And so, but like, I could have played this year. Apparently, I could have emailed them. There were still some spots, and I did play a few years ago. But it's like, if I'm playing, it's just because I want to play top players and try to get better at chess. The only reason that I can afford to take 2-3 weeks of my life away to do that is because of this business I built and worked many years of my life for.
Yes.
But if I was in someone else's shoes, like, I would be really rough. It would affect my mentality.
Of course it would. Yes. Also, that's the other problem with chess, is that like if that's what happens and you lose a game early in the tournament, for example, like I just speaking as like from the pro chess player perspective, if you lose a game early in the tournament, you basically you lose like some 6-hour game to like another guy who's really good, and you're like, F this, F that, why am I playing chess? Like your mindset is always very, very negative from the very get-go. And that's the other big thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about chess, is that like you're very, very negative. It's very easy to go spiraling, and then you spiral out of control, lose some more games, lose some points, and you're just like, why did I waste my life on this stupid board game?
Yalta says, I think these are all just accusations that we can't 100% sure have an answer, but I played professional chess. I'm telling you from experience. Like, I've played in these events. I'm a 2600 plus GM, and I employ some of the top players in the world, even in our professional chess teams. So I'm very involved in chess economics in every stage, as a player, as a manager. I've played some of the nicer events I've been lucky to be invited to.
Also, I have to say I find this part very funny as well, because like I kind of like, I agree with Eric. One of the hardest things in streaming, specifically chess related, is like how Eric is basically, there are people in chat who are like questioning Eric. They're like, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know this, you don't know that. I mean, obviously I deal with the same thing, but the thing is, like, when you've spent your whole life in chess, when you've been around like the top players, you've played tournaments professionally, you've seen the economics of it all, like you do know what you're talking about. And it's like when he's talking, there's like, you don't know what you're talking about. It's tough to see.
So, well, you know, I've been on the lucky end of things as well, but this is one of the nicest.
I know better, yes.
And yeah, it's just sad because like I know the players. You talk to them, and it's like you have a limited time to play, and you're playing your ass off. There's no like ATP tour or minor league system or whatever it is. It's like there's no structure, there's no consistency.
There's only the Grand Chess Tour. That's it.
Talk about afterwards.
That's the only thing. There's only the Grand Chess Tour, and it only applies to roughly the top 20-ish players in the world. That is the ATP Tour. It's a series of like 4 or 5 events, but it only applies to top 20 players, and that's it. And after that, it doesn't trickle down, as if I want to use like trickle down economics as a comparison. It doesn't trickle down.
But like, it's extremely stressful when you literally. This is an event where your costs are covered, right? That's going to tie into the next thing I'm going to talk about. But this is one of the nicer events. At least you're not losing money. There's many cases where you lose money and you play, and you might play really well, but it just doesn't make sense. So you might be wondering, well, why do some people do it? A lot of chess players don't know what else to do. A lot of them like the lifestyle they have. They don't make a lot. They get to be the bosses. And a lot of it is there's a discrepancy in countries where you're from. India, there's a bit of funding for players, at least flights. There's a program where the government partners with national companies, oil companies, etc., and they employ grandmasters and give them a minimum salary every month.
True.
You can do that. That's only certain countries. Uzbekistan funds chess. While most people aren't from Uzbekistan, there's, the former Soviet Union countries have some state money.
True.
That applies to very few people, and that's not something you can guarantee. That's like politics. That's some guy in the government or some whatever legacy from the Soviet Union, where it's like, okay, let's put a bit of money into chess, even though our country has a very low cost of living, can't afford to raise it. There's not even necessarily a democratic process happening in those countries, but let's just toss a lot of money towards chess, even though there's not going to be a huge return. For some countries, there is a return. Uzbekistan is really good at chess now. You can tie that into national pride, culture, etc. Sometimes it's just like poor countries being even poorer.
That was a little bit out there, but hey.
So this is just me ranting, because I was like, well, I mean, I could have played.
Eric's got to move to Uzbekistan. Just got to move to Uzbekistan and learn the language.
It doesn't have to be, and the upside is just not very, very attractive. And I'm speaking from perspective of somebody who's just trying to play professionally, not like an influencer or something.
Yeah, I have it at 1.5 speed, you guys.
It's very hard to do both. Very few people. Hikaru was really the exception, not the norm.
True.
So yeah, that's Isle of Man. That's one of the nicest events. Really, really, most people are losing money. 3 weeks of work, 2 to 3 weeks of work with no pay. Yeah, is a reality for 2/3 of the field for one of the toughest events in history.
True.
That's gonna be a reality. It's gonna be a reality every time they run the event.
True.
So it ties in,
He's right.
People ask, why do title players cheat on chess.com? Why are there cheaters and people risk their reputation? Well, you could spend 3 weeks of your life working hard to try to get $2,000 every single day, 12 hours of chess, 10 hours of chess. Or you could try to figure out a way to cheat and potentially win $1,000 at home without any traveling.
I did not know this was going to be in here. Okay.
$300. Because and I'm talking about top, the average grandmaster is nowhere near winning a prize of $2,000. They play this, again, most of the people who came home with nothing after 2-3 weeks of work, those are top 100 grandmasters, top 200 grandmasters. They are in the top 10% of GMs. Top 10% take home pay would be 0. And there's the other 90% of GMs. So we're talking about already the very best players getting nothing. And then the other 90% of GMs, and then there's IMs and FMs, and we don't want to talk about CMs, etc. But 0 prospects. I'm not saying, I don't believe in that everyone should be paid or whatever. It's not communist Russia. But it also surprises me sometimes when I see players continue to play when the conditions only get worse. Everyone knows competition in chess has gone up. Players have gotten stronger, technology has gotten better, kids are playing more, and kids aren't playing for money when they start out. So in other sports, you don't really have 14-year-olds taking your job. You might compare that to esports a little bit, but even esports is mainly adults. But in chess, that's going to happen because they don't need to play for money yet.
You heard it here first, you guys. You heard it here first. It's all those 14-year-old Indian kids taking your jobs away, right? That's what he's saying.
So now there's a huge influx. Chess has gotten harder, so you have to study more to maintain your level. Kind of like solvers in poker. You gotta study more to maintain your level. But the prizes are going down, and there's more competitors, more people competing for the same pot.
He's right, actually. He is right.
So yeah, it's just hard for me to I feel bad. I feel bad when I see the games. I enjoy it, whatever. But for 90% of the players, it's rough. It's rough.
He's right.
So Chessable has been, things like Chessable have been nice for players because they're training these openings anyways for these events. They're not going to give away all their secrets. They don't have to relearn these things. They can kind of make these courses and try to play events, get some bit of income on a regular basis.
True.
But not most players there aren't doing Chessable. Some are, and that's smart. That's a new thing. So yeah, it just blows my mind, honestly. I actually just blows my mind. I don't know. By the way, Bass Maniac, thanks for the subs. I don't know why people play the events. I don't.
Because they don't have anything else to do.
It doesn't work with my head, personally. It doesn't.
Yeah, so I mean that's pretty much it. But I kind of agree. Why don't other GMs open up about this? I've seen Hikaru point this out. Well, I mean, I think the thing is a lot of people haven't built a platform, and I think if we look going forward, it's really important that players start to think more outside the box, because I don't think that it's going to change. The funding for tournaments is not going to change. The way that you make money in chess is sort of by building a brand and focusing on social media, maybe doing Chessable courses, a YouTube channel, these sorts of things. Streaming, maybe not, depends. But the prizes are never going to increase that much, and if they do increase, it's going to increase at the very top, and it's not going to hit the players in the 2550 to 2650 range, is what I would say. You can teach, of course. The problem with teaching generally is that it's almost impossible to teach kids specifically who are a little bit weaker. I mean, I would say kids who are beginners, and then play at the same high level. It's really not possible, is what I would say. Is that at the end of the day, it's not realistic to try and teach full time and then play at a high level. And I'll give you a good example of this, actually. There's one of the best female American players in the United States is Irina Krush, and she's been like the 8 or 7-8 time US Women's Champion, like very good player. I think she's a GM if I'm not mistaken. She's been over 2,500, very strong, top 20, top 30ish on and off. I think amongst women in the world, and she actually teaches chess all the time. She teaches chess in New York all the time. And as we've seen over the last couple of years with her teaching more and more, her actual performance like in the US Women's Championship and just the quality of her games, which I've seen, has gone down significantly. I think that's directly attributable to her teaching. I think it's directly attributable to her teaching so much to kids. And I think that's the thing, is that like at the end of the day, a lot of people do teach. When they start teaching, you have to give up on you have to give up on playing, because you just can't do it. You just can't do it. That's what I would say in general terms.